welcome to Failure to Series. Oh, a Failure to
Oh.
Franchise spinoff. That's right. Unlike many of the movies we cover on our series Failure to Franchise, the podcast dedicated to some of Hollywood's most infamous mistakes, missteps, and misfires, we are successful enough to get a spinoff. Or at least, I mean, we get to do it ourselves and choose that ourselves. But let's just roll with it. So we decided that this is a special bonus episode called Failure to Series, and we decided that we're going to occasionally do these. We talked about this way back in our origin episode, but when Chris and I, this is Trev, by the way, along
Yep.
with Chris.
Yep.
When we decided to, do this show about, movie franchises that never quite took off, we were talking about the fact that you could also apply this to the world of TV to a smaller degree in terms of what we want to discuss. But I was just thinking of how there's a number of television pilots that weren't picked up. And I think that's kind of interesting too. And I think it's fun to go back and look at some of the what could have beens in the TV world.
And high profile stuff too.
Yeah, and typically ones that exist in kind of the realm that Chris and I like to talk about, the more kind of genre-driven fare. So, like shows based on pre-existing IPs and things like that, they made an attempt and for whatever reason, it didn't pick up.
Yeah.
And I realized just really quickly, maybe we should even, I don't know how young some of our audience members are, but I feel like the idea of TV pilots is even kind of maybe not as known as it used to be.
Yeah.
Should we just briefly mention what we even mean by what is a pilot episode?
Yeah, sure. A pilot is what some filmmakers are. Filmmakers go to a studio, and in this case, a network like NBC or something. In this case, actually NBC, and they pitch their idea for a show. And then all of a sudden, the executives decide, okay, well, you know what? Let's do a test run. So write a spec script, a pilot script, and we'll film it. We won't, add all the crazy special effects and this and that. And let's get a cast together. Let's get a writing team together. Let's get the whole kind of group together, and let's produce one. And then that test pilot goes to the executives again, and they watch it, they dissect it, they probably what's the word when you get a group of people together?
Focus group.
Focus group. They get focus groups for it, and then they decide if they want to do a series pickup. And order, usually years ago they would order full seasons of it, and for network TV, which was like around 22 to 24 episodes a season. Now it's a little different with Netflix and streaming. Things typically are 10 to 13 episode seasons, give or take.
And in the streaming world, you don't really get pilot episodes
No.
because things are just ordered for an entire season right off the bat.
Yeah.
I always found the pilot model to be so fascinating. You'd hear about these actors, moving to LA for pilot season and being very excited about pilot season, trying to get in all these new pilots every year. And the fact that about, I don't know, every year it seemed like something like, I'm just going to make up numbers here just to talk about like the representation of it. But
Sure.
like maybe 60 pilots would be filmed. And of those, only about 20 of them are actually going to be picked up and made into shows. I always thought that was interesting. And it's also interesting, it leaves a lot of actors in this weird limbo where you make the pilot, and then you actually have to wait a long time to find out if the show gets picked up. And some of the ones that do go forward, you can actually see that represented. An infamous example is, to me, is watching the pilot of Lost and realizing how much time must have passed between when they did the pilot and the second episode, because Sawyer's haircut is completely different in the second episode than it is in the pilot.
And also the actors kind of had to pick what they wanted to do. So let's say an actor went to go audition for 5 pilots, and let's say he or she gets offered 3 of them. You kind of have to put all your eggs in one basket because you can't really commit to 3 shows. So an actor would, okay, well, I'll do show A, and then it does the pilot and it doesn't get picked up, but show B, which they had the chance to be on, gets picked up. There's so many levels to the chaotic nature of Hollywood and why it chews and spits everybody out.
And the pilot is also like their not last opportunity, but one of the last significant opportunities they have to really realize like what doesn't work about the thing, what can we retool.
Yeah.
Like again, another infamous example of this is the Buffy pilot, which you can find online, which has a completely different actress playing Willow. Slightly different, not, just a little bit of a different tone. So that, they find things that they do like, and they go, okay, we can either just not pick it up, or we can say, well, let's recast this part, let's change this, let's just tinker a little bit, and then we'll move forward. But we're not going to talk about those. We're not going to talk about the ones that move forward. We're going to talk about the ones that just, died on the vine, as it were.
Yeah. And in this case, we're talking about Wonder Woman from 2011, right?
Yeah, we felt like it was a pretty good time and a good one to start with Wonder Woman 84 right on the cusp of being released on HBO Max and in, whatever theaters might be open. So we're about to get back into, Wonder Woman Hypeville for at least one weekend.
And actually, when this episode drops, we are past the first weekend of that. So hopefully people have checked out Wonder Woman 1984, and I'm sure we'll have a little bit of a discussion here of the differences between the cinematic Wonder Woman and what this TV show may have brought.
Yeah. So Chris already mentioned this was made for NBC. That's who the network that it was aimed at in 2011, and most notably, it is David E. Kelley's vision of Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand, I think it was a project that was brought to him. I don't think he had any lifelong desire to do Wonder Woman. I think it's more that Warner Brothers TV and DC wanted to do a Wonder Woman show, and David E. Kelley was certainly a known name. Chris, I don't know how you feel about David E. Kelley. Are you very familiar with him, or?
I'm not. I've never seen Big Little Lies or Ally McBeal.
And that's not all. So he's very successful.
Yeah,
I mean, he's the creator
don't get me wrong. I know the name.
Yeah, he's the creator of Picket Fences, Chicago Hope, The Practice, Ally McBeal, Boston Public, Boston Legal, Harry's Law, Big Little Lies, and Mr. Mercedes. In the movie world, he wrote Mystery Alaska, and most notably, the David E. Kelley project I am the biggest fan of, Lake Placid, a monster movie I quite enjoy.
I love Lake Placid.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then in the TV realm, I like some of those shows. I was really into Boston Public. I really quite enjoy Boston Legal.
Mm-hmm.
I did like The Practice once James Spader came on as Alan Shore in that last season in particular. It really picked up for me. I remember watching Picket Fences a little bit back in the day. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call myself like a David E. Kelley devotee, but I can see
a Kelley head.
Kelly head, and also to his credit, been married to Michelle Pfeiffer since '93. So you go, David E. Kelley.
Oh wow, that's weird. We just recorded an episode, Catwoman, and that's none of this was planned.
Yeah. Ooh, a little peek behind the scenes. We are recording this right after we recorded our Catwoman episode. So if we seem a little, frazzled or whatever, it's because we just talked about that pile of garbage.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully, if you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. It's fun. It's a really fun conversation. So can I do something first off the top here?
Yeah, why don't you go for it?
Okay. Well, fellow listeners, it's all led to this moment. Trev came to me about 6 months ago or so or whatever and was like, let's do a podcast. And I said, yeah, what's it about? And he's like, failures in Hollywood and yada yada and blah, blah, blah. Okay. You know what? I'm in. Let's do it. And then he started talking about TV shows. And he's like, we should do TV pilots as well. And I go, okay. Yeah, that's a cool idea. I really, it's hard to come by those, and I think that's a really interesting conversation, and it'll add some diversity to our show and this and that, right? Okay. Well, it was all a ruse. I was duped from the beginning. The beginning of this podcast, the inception of this podcast, the idea of this podcast has led to this fucking episode, where Trev says, "Let's do Wonder Woman," and I go, "Okay, yeah, that sounds good." I know Adrienne Palicki, the actress, she was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I watched that for a few seasons, and I liked her, and I was like, okay, that's gonna be cool. It's Wonder Woman, topical. It's on our, it's in our frame of reference. So I'm watching this fucking show, and I have a story to tell you, dear listeners. But have we all heard of Cary Elwes? The famed actor from The Princess Bride.
Of course we have. Beloved actor.
Okay, you shut the fuck up, okay? Cary Elwes is in this show. Now, I have a history with Cary Elwes. Let's just say I have a moment in time where it completely smashed my fandom for the man, the craft, the actor, the icon. I use that very loosely. I fucking hate that guy. And let me take you down a little memory lane. So a few years back, probably 6-7 years ago, these local, comic conventions happened or whatever, and I went to one. I actually traveled a little, a few hours to go to it, and me and my cousins, and I got this brand new Canon camcorder, I just wanted to take some like nice photos and like not camcorder, I guess it was just an actual camera, but like I wanted to like take some nice photos and some professional stuff and like kind of document, I haven't been to this convention here in this city, and I was like, let's do this. So I'm walking around, the hall, and I'm taking pictures because that's what fucking people do. And I see from afar the autograph table, and I see motherfucking Cary Elwes. And I was like, holy shit, the fucking Princess Bride guy. And I was like, oh, and I love Saw. It's my favorite horror movie franchise. And I'm like, man, that's so cool that like he's here, and kind of get a little starstruck. And, I'm taking my camera and I'm, getting candid moments. Well, this guy lifts up his head and he's talking to his fucking little group of fans or whatever. And he sees me from afar, visibly mad. He stops his conversation. He goes, hold on one second. And he jumps up and he walks all the way towards me. And I'm like kind of in a panic mode, right? Because I don't know what I did. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening here? I was like, oh my God, it's fucking Cary Elwes is walking up to me. What's going on? So I kind of like shuffle with my camera. And he goes to me, he goes, yeah, exactly. And I'm like, what? And he goes, what are you taking pictures for? And I was like, I mean, memories? And he's like, give me your camera right now. And I was like, and because I'm like, I'm kind of starstruck and I don't know what's going on. He goes, give me your camera right now. Show me right now. And I go, okay. And I show him the camera, and he goes, delete those fucking pictures. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. And he goes, there's no supposed to be pictures, no photography. And the reason why he says that is because this fucking guy makes his fans pay $60 for a fucking second of pictures for him because he's whatever he is now. Anyways, doesn't matter. So he yells at me. Makes me feel like shit, tells me to delete my fucking pictures, and he goes, yeah, I thought so. And then he walks away from me. And he goes back to his little posse of fucking fans, all these little teenage girls, and he's just like, they're all like, and he's obviously now talking shit about me. I can see from afar talking shit about me. I'm being like, yo, like this guy, he's taking pictures. What an idiot. You're not supposed to take pictures. I had to set him straight. Now he's a big fucking tough guy, right? Anyways, Cary Elwes sucks. And it made me like I've never actually liked The Princess Bride. I don't know what your feelings on it. I can't remember, but I actually don't like that movie. I've tried many times to like it. I don't like it. And I actually like came home and like I fucking tossed my Blu-ray. I was like, you know what? I can't even watch this guy. And every time he pops up, it makes me viscerally angry. So I sit down for Wonder Woman to have a nice little, 30 minutes or whatever, 40 minutes on my couch. And I'm met with this trickery, this duplicitedness by my co-host Trev. And anyways, Cary Elwes is in this show, and no wonder it failed.
There's an alternate version of that story. The story of, an iconic, beloved, hardworking actor who takes time out of his busy schedule to go visit some little podunk convention in bumfuck Canada and finds some like, overeager fanboy trying to exploit his image by taking an unsolicited photo at an event where, yes, it is generally accepted that you pay for your photo opportunities with all these stars. You might have also just been having a bad day. You might have caught Cary Elwes. The attitude part of it, everybody has bad days.
First of all, you were already wrong because taking a time out of his busy schedule. You're assuming he's busy.
Well, he's Cary Elwes. I assume he's always busy. Very, very in demand. To answer your question about my relationship with Princess Bride, I rightly think it is a wonderful film. I love it.
I hate you.
He's good in it. I quite like Cary Elwes. I think he's also, I love him in Glory, the best Civil War movie ever made. He's I won't talk too much about his performance in Saw because that might negate what I'm saying about him. But I liked him. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Robin Hood Men in Tights, I find him funny in that. I find him funny in Hot Shots. I got nothing against Cary Elwes, and in fact, knowing that he was kind of a jerk to you kind of endears him to me more.
I hate you.
I would cast Cary Elwes in a movie I was making in a heartbeat, just knowing that you'd probably come to set someday and have to meet him again. But yeah, no, it is true. I will fully cop to. I purposely did not tell Chris, who I knew had not seen this pilot. I did not tell Chris that Cary Elwes is in this. But to be fair, I didn't tell you like anything about the show.
No, for
I
sure.
just said,
for sure.
Let's watch Wonder Woman.
But
I knew that'd be a fun. I knew that'd be a fun little bonus.
But I knew for sure you knew to absolutely hide me from that information.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I was
okay.
really worried that you were going to look up the show before watching it. Like that
Yeah,
was like
no.
a constant fear of mine. Because I really wanted that moment where he pops on screen. I just wish I should have said, Chris, just for the, I should have said like for YouTube or something, record yourself watching it. That's what I should have done.
My note when he pops up and is, oh my god, and it's spelled GAWD. Carrie fucking Elways. I've been tricked. No wonder this fucking TV show didn't get picked up.
But let's okay. I mean,
All right, get it. I just want to get that off the way off the
Yeah,
top. I thought it was
I
it was funny. It was funny. So
I understand you had to get that off your chest.
Yeah,
But
anyways.
let's talk about the actual show.
sure.
let's
First of
talk-
all, thank you for letting me do that.
So let's talk about David E. Kelly's vision of Wonder Woman. I don't know that we. So it's a single episode, meant to introduce the world to this iteration of Wonder Woman. I don't know that we need to go scene by scene or anything, but let's
No.
just talk about the general idea of the story. So I'll just kind of briefly summarize it by saying, in this version of Wonder Woman, we're introduced to, as you said, Adrienne Palicki as Diana Themyscira, who is known to the world as both Diana Themyscira, the CEO of a large corporation called Themyscira Industries. I'm not even sure it's ever made entirely clear what the corporation does overall. We do know that they market Wonder Woman because she's also, the world knows she's Wonder Woman. They know her as both this like high-powered, businesswoman and Wonder Woman who runs around at night in the Wonder Woman costume, fighting crime.
Yeah.
And Themyscira Industries like markets Wonder Woman. They make Wonder Woman toys, merchandise, posters. They set up public events for her to go to. So that's like one aspect of her world in this. The show then also posits that she's pretty frustrated with that because she feels that having to be Wonder Woman constantly and also run this corporation doesn't allow her to have a normal life. So she has adopted a third identity, a secret identity known as Diana Prince. And Diana Prince is where she puts on jeans and a pair of glasses and basically just goes back to her apartment, hangs out with her cat, watches movies, and surfs the internet. The storyline of this first episode is she finds out there's another corporation run by an evil businesswoman, Veronica Cale, played by Elizabeth Hurley, who has been using this new performance-enhancing drug, created this performance-enhancing drug, and is giving it to volunteers, an illegal drug that is giving them superhuman strength and endurance. The opening scene of this, or the second scene, I guess, of the pilot, is Wonder Woman chasing this criminal down the streets on Hollywood Boulevard and knocking him out, and he's kind of super powered, kind of puts up a fight. She knocks him out and then kind of goes into this investigation because also recently, a young teenager who has just been accepted into college and is excitedly telling his family about it, he starts convulsing, starts bleeding from his ears and his eyes, and it turns out that he was also taking this drug. So now Diana is like, oh my God, what's happening? How are these people getting superpowers? Why are some people like kind of, being, hurt by this thing? And she tracks it down to Veronica Cale. Even though she has no actual proof that Veronica Cale is responsible for this, she calls a press conference and tells the world that Veronica Cale has created this drug and is using it to hurt people. Against the advice of her, the person who runs her company, Harry Detmer, played by Carrie Elways, and her personal assistant, Etta Candy, played by Tracy Toms. So now that she's thrown out there, she's kind of said, well, it's this Cale. I'm going to take her down. She has to find a burden of proof, so she launches an investigation. She is helped in her investigation by her liaison to the police department, Detective Ed Endelecto. Love that name. Here's another fascinating thing, which I'm sure we want to mention, played by Pedro Pascal.
Yep.
And that's really like the bulk of the show is her and kind of trying to prove that Veronica Cale is behind this evil drug that's meant to give people powers, but is also killing people.
Yeah.
And it ultimately builds to this like final confrontation between her and Veronica Cale. And ultimately the show though is just, this is as a pilot, it's just showing us like, this is her world, right? This is what it's like for her, when she returns from her adventures as Wonder Woman, how she flies her jet to the top of this building and comes in the building and then has to deal with board meetings and everything. And then the secondary aspect of how she goes home and tries to lead a normal life. And then there's interspliced throughout this other like kind of subplot about how in her recent past, she broke up with her boyfriend, Steve Trevor, because she was worried that, I can't have a normal life as Wonder Woman. So she basically told him, we can't be together. And that's kind of a recurring theme through this. So that about sums it up. I just wanted to give the basic idea of it so that we can just kind of start to pick it apart.
Yep.
So let me just ask you, just generally, Chris, are you shocked that this didn't succeed or wasn't picked up? What did you think?
Yeah, no, it's very bad. It's it's what it is that it feels like it's in the second season, and that's my biggest takeaway, is that it feels like it's in the middle of the season or the middle of like the show run. Like,
there's certainly that. As a pilot, it's very weird.
So that's one part. Also, it is without we'll get into details later, but I will say that Diana is kind of she. Oh my God, she's basically Zack Snyder's version of Wonder Woman, in the sense that she is ruthless killer. She's scary.
I was waiting how long it would get us to this moment, but let's
Yeah.
just say it now so we can address the elephant in the room. To me, whenever I think of this, because this is now my third time watching this pilot, because I'm a stupid person. Whenever I think of this version of Wonder Woman, and whenever I tell people about it, I will always default to, that is the version of Wonder Woman where she throws a steel pipe through the neck of a security guard,
Yeah.
just murdering him instantly.
She also crushes guys with sea cans. It's kind of crazy, and especially in contrast, because we now know, we have had years of knowledge of Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot. What do we want to say? Gal Gadot. And she is, pun unintended, wonderful. She really is wonderful. I am not really a big fan of the DCEU for reasons, but Wonder Woman, I think, is genuinely a fantastic film, and I love it.
Well,
I love it completely.
She was the first. She was the first saving grace of the DCEU, right? That was where you're like, oh my God, they might be able to get this back on track because they found the right Wonder Woman.
Yes.
And then when that movie came out, it was also, oh man, they found the right writers and filmmaker to actually respect this character. And
Yes.
give us the version we've been waiting to see forever.
And she might be one of the most charming performances ever put to screen. Is that film? So cut to, I guess, the past, 2011, and watching Adrian Palicki, which, first of all, we will say, we'll get into her history with the character and her thoughts on everything. Who I genuinely like. I like her. There's really no. There's going to be, right off the top, there's no disrespect to her in this film or show. Sorry, because it really has nothing to do with her. The movie or the show is damned from the start by making her a ruthless killer that is annoyed, frustrated, irritated by literally everyone. She just seems like a fucking asshole. Am I wrong?
No, it's not, and it's not just that. I mean, you're right. Like, I can't. It's hard to vibe a version of Wonder Woman that is this bloodthirsty, and ruthless. I mean, there's like a scene where she's talking to someone and she's like, I will kill you,
in front of other people. She had witnesses too.
Yeah. But when you say the thing about how it's doomed from the start, you're right, because the double layer of that is the bizarre decision, and ultimately like the really kind of offensive and ridiculous decision. This is like as I said, I think David E. Kelly is a talented writer, but you think of this guy who's asked in 2011 to like make Wonder Woman, and at this point Wonder Woman has never been in the movies. She's mostly known to pop culture, or like a large segment of the pop culture mainstream audience from the Linda Carter show. So he's trying to think of how to reinvent this. And he says, like, well, what would be like a really empowering version of Wonder Woman now? Well, clearly we got to make it a show about how she's a superhero, but also runs a business.
Of course.
And what it's like to run a large business when you're a woman, like a woman in a man's world.
Yep.
And then to add on that super unnecessary Diana Prince aspect of it, where I don't know where this would have headed in the show. Obviously, it's always hard when you're talking about a pilot.
Dude, I was so confused. I was genuinely confused.
It's so weird to me that they had this whole thing where she's like, well, I have to be Diana Prince because it's my only chance to be normal. And then what does she do when she's Diana Prince? She does nothing but goes to an apartment and hangs out by herself. And you have scenes where like Carrie Elways is like, why don't you just stay here in this penthouse?
Yeah.
And just, and she's like, no, I got to be Diana Prince. But we don't see her being social at all as Diana Prince. So what are you talking about? Like, you can't just watch romantic comedies and hang out with your cat. back at your way better apartment in the Themyscira Industries building. It makes no sense.
Makes no sense whatsoever. And like I said, I was genuinely confused. I had no idea what was. It didn't really even click for me until I was like, oh, okay, wait. We have 3 Wonder Woman personas going on, and it's like that. Have your cake and eat it too. Like they're obviously trying to do this Iron Man, Tony Stark thing that everybody knows about her, but then still having the secret identity, which it just does not. It does not gel in any way.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, what did they ultimately think the secret identity aspect was going to add to it? Because to me, I feel like even though I'm not super into the idea of her being Diana Themyscira and running this company,
Yeah.
I think if you like have talented writers, that's enough for a show, right? The idea of this like public persona of like, oh, everyone knows that this CEO is actually Wonder Woman. That's enough. I don't need the Diana Prince part of it.
No, and also, hey, change your first name, okay? Like you look like Diana Themyscira, and you look like Wonder Woman, and you have the same first name. Hey, guess what? I'm gonna put these 2 and 2 together. Like it's at least change your at least Superman changed his name to Clark instead of like what if he came on the scene and he was like Kal-El, like, and he just kept his alien name. It's just so it's kind of baffling.
He's like, hello, I'm Daily Planet reporter Soup R Man. Oh, that's weird.
That's crazy. He looks exactly like that guy. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and also again, this goes back to what you're saying about how it's strange because it as a pilot, it's not like an origin story, and it just kind of throws us into this world. I'm never even clear, and I'm sure they would have fleshed this out, but this is why you have to make sure your pilot works to get people interested. Watching this, I don't even understand if Themyscira is meant to be a real place that she came from. There's one brief reference where she mentions Amazons, but there's no indication that she comes from this like other mystical this like island of gods. There's no indication that she is a god. I don't understand if she's like genetically enhanced chemically or if she's just like, very athletic. It's all very unclear. She has the lasso of truth. I think they even call it that, but she does not use it ever to like make anyone tell the truth. She just uses it to fucking whip people around and break their bones. Yeah, so like that's the storytelling on that aspect is bad. But you, to be fair, you're right. I don't think Adrienne Palicki's bad in this.
Nope.
And I look at it and go like, that's too bad that she couldn't have been given a better shot at this because I think she would have been a good TV Wonder Woman. She certainly looks the part. I know we'll talk about the costume. But yeah, this is not the issue. Is not with her, and I don't think the issue is with any of the performers. I know you're going to come in and say Carol Hayes is terrible.
Yeah, I know. I'm not even going to say that. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is bad in this, and I think some of the casting is actually kind of dead on. I really like the idea of Tracy Thoms as Etta. Tracy Thoms is a performer I really like, and I think she's kind of fun in this in the little bit they give her. I assume we would have seen more of Elizabeth Hurley as the show went on, and even though she doesn't have much to do here, Elizabeth Hurley, we know she can like just like sink her teeth into a role like this, like a villainous kind of evil CEO. So I would like to see more of that. Obviously, I always like to see more of Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so like casting, no, writing, yikes.
Can we jump into? I want to talk about Adrienne Palicki's because now we're saying that she's actually she's good in it, but she's just it's just mischaracterized. Her history with the property, I guess. She's been obviously interviewed ever since. I don't exactly know when this interview happened, but I'm going to read some stuff from her if you don't mind.
Sure.
To call Adrienne Palicki a comic book fan would be an understatement. I have a Supergirl tattoo, she says. She also idolized her brother, who wrote comic books. Anything he did, I wanted to do. Of course, I gravitated towards these beautiful, strong women, wanting to be one eventually as this awkward child. She talks about getting cast as Wonder Woman. She goes, it was honestly the scariest thing ever and the best thing ever at the same time. Getting to wear the outfit just was a huge dream of mine. She was nervous to work with Cary Elwes. I walk in one day, and it's Cary Elwes, and I'm like, I can't read with him. He was Wesley. He was the love of my life at one point. I was so nervous. So she's just like fun about this. She understands the legacy. She also, we mentioned in the beginning, there's that little action scene, which I actually thought was pretty fun, and it immediately feels like a CW show, which we'll get into. But I love this quote from her. During production, they shut down all of Hollywood Boulevard to film a chase sequence in which Wonder Woman leaps over several cars in pursuit of a drug dealer. And she goes on to say, "It was one of the most surreal moments of my life," says Palicki, who worked in a store along the star-studded LA Strip many years ago. "I can't believe I was managing a sunglass store there, and now I'm part of this process of closing down Hollywood Boulevard wearing a Wonder Woman costume."
Yeah.
So like she's into it, you know, like you feel bad for her that the fucking show sucks.
She has a really like I feel bad for her for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Because if you look at like her career in general, okay, so let's just think in 2003, she's cast as Judy Robinson in John Woo's unsold pilot, The Robinsons Lost in Space. So kind of the first attempt to do a Lost in Space TV reboot that is not picked up. In 2006, she plays the evil Nadia in the WB pilot Aquaman, which is not picked up.
Jeez.
Then she goes on to she she has some successes. She gets the role in Friday Night Lights, which I think a lot of people know her from. So she's in the first 3 seasons of that. You know, she starts getting popping up in movies and stuff. And she gets Wonder Woman in 2011, right? Coming right after she leaves Friday Night Lights, or shortly after. Doesn't get picked up. Okay, still chugging along. She is in G.I. Joe Retaliation as Lady J. She's got supporting roles in a couple other movies, including John Wick. Which she's quite good in, I think, in a small little villainous role.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2014, as you said, she joins Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She joins that during season 2, and her character is initially just kind of a guest star, and then they bump her up to full-time cast member. And then she eventually leaves the show because they decide to give her... So she plays Bobby Morse, known as Mockingbird in the show. And they decide to give her and another character, Lance Hunter, their own spin-off. And they make a spin-off pilot called Marvel's Most Wanted. Guess what? Doesn't get picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's like a double whammy because she like left the successful show to do a pilot that doesn't get picked up, and they never bring her back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is like really, really unfortunate, I think, because I really liked her on that show. And I just thought that sucked that kind of had that string of luck. But there you go, like 3 nerd level pilots that don't get picked up. Thankfully the happy ending for her, or at least at this point, is now she's on the Orville, a successful science fiction comedy, which I think is still going. As far
I
as
believe
know.
so. Yep.
Yeah. So, she's got like some ups and downs in her career, but yeah, I like her as a performer. And I think, like you said, she's fine in this. She looks great as Wonder Woman. Should we talk about the costume? Because I know it's a big part of it and a big bone of contention in some of the discussion of it. So I actually want to talk about it.
Yeah, the costume is a bone of contention because there is a through line of the theme of the show where Diana is her company kind of brands Wonder Woman, and it kind of the money coming from the company I guess funds her superhero exploits. But there's this conversation about a doll, and it's about the doll looking very sexual. And I'll just drop the clip right here.
Upon further scrutiny, it was determined that SalesMart International not be selected as suitable distributors. They have a 1-to-1 current ratio with liabilities likely to rise using our standard.
Quinn's in intensive care. Under police protection. You can't go there, Di.
Call Ed. Have him pull off the cards.
Ed called here, specifically asking that you stay away.
After all I've done for the LAPD, he can't help me out.
Di, I just spoke to him on the phone a second ago. He doesn't want
Excuse
to.
me. Sorry to disturb, but the whole purpose of this meeting is to get your input. So if you wouldn't mind saving that conversation till later. Thank you. Please, continue.
Thank you.
My input is that the doll is insulting. I want it redesigned.
What?
I never approved of this.
You most certainly did. I mean, this is the very prototype.
I didn't sign off on it. Okay, look. I know Amazons are endowed with various blessings. We are not this endowed. These breasts are ridiculous. How many here think that these reflect my breasts?
Okay. Look. You've seen the flow charts. The lesser endowed models don't say
I don't
nearly
care
as
about
well
the flow
as
charts.
I do. It's my job to care.
Well, you should care about my
Especially
being
since the
objectified,
merchandising goes to
Henry.
pay for
The
the crime
leather
fighting.
sheets reflect
You
the
like your
message that
gadgets.
was sent to
You
young
like your
girls.
pants.
I never signed off on this prototype.
You were the one who designed the
If I had
form-fitting
seen it,
costume.
I
You
never
had
would
the
have done
idea
that.
of
I never said to
merchandise.
merchandise my tits.
Wonder Woman isn't vulgar.
No. Of course Wonder Woman isn't vulgar. Wonder Woman's perfect. Perfect tits, perfect ass, perfect teeth. I mean, look at these teeth. She always does everything right. God forbid she make a mistake. It's not like we should expect the world to accept her being human.
Now, that clip you just heard it kind of goes against what we just saw of her costume. Her costume could not be tighter.
Yeah. So
Could not be tighter. There's no way. Like, I'm surprised she could move in it. Honest to God.
not only is it super tight, but like the top part of it, let's just say like let's just come right out and say it. Her boobs be popping.
Yeah.
In this costume.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, like how much her chest is being accentuated by this.
Mm-hmm.
And as a heterosexual male, I certainly am not. I wasn't watching it like, I don't like that, you know. But at the same time, as a Wonder Woman fan, you do go, oh no, you know, like it's exactly what you don't want from that character. But that said, like I have mixed emotions about the costume. So this costume was like kind of hated on right away when the first promotional photos of her came out in it. A lot of people attacking it. Oddly enough, the first initial controversy about the costume was that it no longer adopted like an American flag motif as
Right.
the Linda Carter costume had. And so there was actually a lot of discussion on like Fox News and stuff about how this show is trying to take away the American hero aspect of Wonder Woman, which is funny because she's from Themyscira, not American. But you know, they were really worried about that. It's that whole like first man doesn't show any flags on the moon thing all over again, you know, like these dumb, stupid controversies that the right tries to get going.
Yeah.
And then but then people just kind of also like watch the show and say, the costume's not that great. I agree that the costume's too tight, it's too sexualized. I don't necessarily hate the costume though.
Right.
I think it just needs some like slight alterations. I actually think it's like a pretty effective Wonder Woman costume, especially the first iteration of it that we see, the version with the long pants. I'm always kind of like, there's always this discussion about should Wonder Woman wear pants? Like, you know, is it like so outdated that she, you know, doesn't wear pants in the comics? I've never super been interested in that conversation, but I will say just in terms of how these two costumes look, because in the third act they put her in a more traditional Wonder Woman costume.
Yeah.
I think the first one looks better. I assume you're watching the same version I was, which is like the unfinished version, which has funny moments where it says on the screen like VFX missing, and one of them is pants to be darkened.
Yeah.
Because they're like really bright blue. And I actually do think if they had done that, I think with darker pants it would have looked much better. But yeah, I think like it just needed to be like less sexualized, and more of her chest needs to be covered, because that is the one thing where I felt kind of bad for Palicki, because in this costume she really looks like, you know, those Axel Braun like This Ain't Wonder Woman XXX.
Yeah.
Like that's what this looks like.
Yeah.
And she's definitely filling it out well, and it definitely looks like Wonder Woman, but it looks like the porn version of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it does. It's it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It doesn't really gel.
Yeah. Like I said, it's like when you have a discussion, when you have her talking about how this character shouldn't be this sexualized, this show is not doing her any favors.
No.
Should we talk about Pedro Pascal being in this? Because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, sure. I was surprised to see him, especially because he doesn't have any facial hair on. It took me a while to be like, holy shit, that's the fucking Mandalorian. Like, that's crazy that he's on this show.
He doesn't have any facial hair on. I like how you say it like that, like he puts it on.
I recognize my verbiage as I said it.
No, this is obviously very, very early Pedro Pascal. Like most people, I didn't take note of him, and I don't think the world took note of him until Game of Thrones.
Right.
And this is clearly like well before that. But also, and he's not given much to do in this. Like,
No.
you can tell what his character would have been. I'm sure there would have been an eventual will there, won't they, with him as well as the Steve Trevor aspect of it. That probably would have been the love triangle. But he's just like the police liaison, the detective she's going to work with. But ultimately, I just think it's fascinating he's in this because he goes on to be the villain in Wonder Woman 84.
Yep. Oh yeah,
So
shit.
Yeah. So, wow, that never clicked to you?
No, it never clicked to me. Just no. I was just like nodding along with what you're saying, and I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah, no, that's the cool thing. So I wonder, like on set,
that's
if
fun.
he was like, let me tell you all my stories of Wonder Woman. Like I've lived in the Wonder Woman trenches before. You know? But yeah, so he gets to lay claim to being in two versions of Wonder Woman.
Oh, that's fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I do like watching this pilot, like the unfinished version.
Yeah.
There's the fight sequence with her and all the villains, like in the warehouse, where they haven't yet digitally removed the wires, that are helping them jump all around. That's very fun.
Yeah, that was awesome.
There's certain sequences of her lasso where the special effect is not complete, and it looks like she's suddenly got like she got a lasso from Toontown from Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, like an MS Paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, this show is just kind of a mess. That's how I would say it. It's just a mess. It's down from the start. I think they have the right players in the sense of the cast. involved, but it's just the jumping headfirst into, like I said, it feels like it's in the middle of the show, is a mistake. I think it's confusing. And then she's just too ruthless. She's just not. She doesn't really hit me as Wonder Woman. She's just kind of mean, and I don't like that.
No, the costume is too hot first.
Yeah,
you know, it's too hot-minded first, and she's too bloodthirsty of a character. That's like, to me, as funny as it is, and maybe the reason I keep watching the pilot again is just because it always makes me laugh when she murders that security guard.
Yeah,
because it's so I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. Like, it's so in your face.
Oh, it was crazy.
Like, I'm not kidding. Like I said it, I'm not exaggerating, people. She throws a pipe through a man's head. And
just a security guard.
Yeah, that's the thing. Not a major villain. And then when she confronts Elizabeth Hurley, she grabs her by the neck and smashes her up against a wall to knock her out. At this point, we're not given any reason to think Elizabeth Hurley is not superpowered, so she's just grabbing a regular human woman and, you know, potentially breaking her spine. So, even the moment, like you were talking about how she's kind of like, she's unlikable at this. I really kind of just even lose Wonder Woman as a likable hero when she goes on TV and just accuses this woman with no evidence. Like, now, we the audience know she's right, but even still, like, her like partners are 100% correct in telling her, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you don't do that? You've just like set her up to, on a legal aspect, you know, totally destroy you, because you're not allowed to just go on TV and say, I don't have any evidence, but this person is definitely killing people with this drug.
Well, you can do that now in 2020, maybe not in 2011.
That's true.
Yeah. Different world.
Yeah. I mean, especially, did you ever watch the Linda Carter Wonder Woman show?
I have not. No, I've seen like clips through the years because of the memification of the internet and stuff, but no, I've never actually sat down with an episode.
It's fun. I do like it, you know, and it's got that fun, like, campy spirit.
Sure.
And it's certainly a better representation of the character than this.
Oh, I just remembered. We were talking about little production mishaps. You know, like we see the wires and we see, you know, unfinished VFX. So obviously, they haven't hired a composer for the music yet. So when pilots happen, they put temp music down, and to underlay their moments or whatever, but it's all temp music. What that means is that it's music from other properties that they've thrown in. So for your little score horror moment, at the end of the episode, when Diana is met with Steve Trevor, they have a face-to-face meeting. The temp music is from Lost. So I'm glad you mentioned Lost in the beginning. And because Lost, that score from Michael Giacchino is probably the greatest TV score ever, in my opinion. I absolutely love the Lost music. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to throw some little production stuff in.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out some things that reviewers said about it at the time.
Sure.
So, you know, people did get their eyes on the pilot. And just talking about, so Kyle Buchanan of New York Magazine stated that the costume looked less like a superhero outfit and more like a Project Runway challenge gone awry. The kind of thing Nina Garcia would dismiss by sniffing shiny, cheap, and tacky. That's another thing. It is very shiny. Why is it so shiny?
Yeah.
Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter pointed out that the costume was causing a divide, with many exclaiming it was too trashy and too bad porny. So yes, that's true as well. Yep. Then there's a little thing about, the whole Fox News dumb controversy of it. But there was a certain quote I wanted to point out. Yes. I think this is like a great summation of this too. Writing about the show for Flickering Myth in 2017, Neil Calloway said it has its moments. Well, I don't know what he's talking about there. But then he says, but it was probably dated in 2011. We didn't really lose anything by it not being commissioned in a new series. And that's what I ultimately took from watching it, is that it's actually kind of shocking to watch this and think it's 2011. Because everything about it, like its visual look, its like misunderstanding of the character and the themes, it's taking a good-hearted character that's known for their sense of justice and just depicting her as a bloodthirsty murderer. Like, everything about it feels way early 2000s or late 90s to me.
Yeah.
That's what ultimately, like, it does. It feels like a show out of its time, and I don't know that the show would have been a success at any time, but it's definitely not right for 2011.
It's funny.
Not when we're right in, like, that's right after, or actually a couple of years after MCU started to like get it right, you know. And this idea of how do you finally get these characters to be loved by, you know, mainstream audiences, just depict them like they were in the comics. and then to do this show, which is like not, which is just going completely against that, is so stupid.
It's a show that's way in the past, but also almost too early for what's to come on the CW and the DC universe, because it does feel like it looks like a CW show. It feels like a CW show. I'm not a huge fan of those shows. I know you are. I know you watched Arrow like right through, all the way through, and you're a fan of a few of them. But would you agree that maybe, I mean, with some tweaks, obviously, and maybe they just refilmed the pilot to, you know, take away a lot of her meanness and anger. But do you think that this just a little too soon?
No, I don't actually. I
Okay.
think even like what the comparison you're making, I don't even think this works as like a CW show. I think CW would have got it more right. And in fact, CW almost did their own version of Wonder Woman show called Amazon, which I don't even think made it to pilot stage. But I was always interested to see what that would have been like, because I thought Smallville was a fairly decent show. And you're right, I think the Arrowverse, I've kind of lost it a little bit. But I actually think the Arrowverse to me is like ultimately a little bit more successful than the DCEU.
Right.
In terms of, you know, accurately presenting these characters. I think this one just doesn't have. So like Greg Berlanti, the guy who heads the Arrowverse, he really gets the characters and wants to represent them the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And David E. Kelly wants to make his version of Wonder Woman. That's clear, right? He's not interested in doing right by the comic. He's interested in, I have this funny idea about what would it be like if a CEO was also a superhero, but let's also make sure it's super sexy. So yeah, it's just it's. I don't think this would have worked at any time, and I don't know. You say the thing about some tinkering. This requires so much tinkering. You'd basically be turning it into a different show.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I'll just briefly, let's just sum up by saying, if this had taken off, it's weird to think like if this had taken off, I guess you would say it's probably likely we wouldn't have got Gal Gadot, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I mean, thank God.
Yeah. Because Gal is fucking awesome. She's immediately iconic. She, you know, I know people have problems with the last act of the original Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, as do I. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think all the sins are forgiven in my eyes just purely because she's just that good. She's so charming. And obviously, I mean, she's stunning. Like, you know, she is really like one of the most beautiful people on the planet. Mind you, that Imagine video was her idea, so maybe there is a little some points knocked off for that. But yeah, in the vein of Wonder Woman, she is really truly like she's like our Wonder Woman, you know. So I'm looking forward at the time of recording this. Wonder Woman 1984 is not out yet, but hopefully I've seen it by the time you're hearing this, and I really hope I love it. I really do. I've been rooting for that movie so much. It sucks that it seems like, you know, streaming in this is maybe going to kill a lot of the conversation around it, but I hope that movie lasts in the people's consciousness. I really do.
The two Wonder Woman projects starring Pedro Pascal, I hope it's the better one.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a nice way of leaving it.
Yeah. All right, so we'll be back with one of these bonus ones eventually. We've got some ideas, but I think it's fun. I guess. Oh, let's say this. Let's go out on this thought. Would you recommend people watch this though? Do you think it's like a fun watch for, you know, it's only 40 minutes. Like, what did you think? Did you have fun watching it on any level or what?
Yeah, I would say check it out. I mean, especially it's easily, I found it within 2 seconds online. If you just Google it, Wonder Woman TV pilot, there is streaming all the way around it. That's how I found it.
That's what I'd say. I think it's worth watching, not because you'll like it, because almost certainly you won't.
Yeah.
But I think shows like this, like these, become interesting time capsules. And like,
yeah,
you know, this is an interesting piece of Wonder Woman history. Watching this will make you respect, you know, like the Wonder Woman we do have now even more.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you see how badly someone can get it, it really highlights the good we've gotten since. So.
Yeah. No, watch it. Check it out.
And plus, Carol Elwes is in it, and that's always worth watching.
I hate you for doing this to me.
What did you like? What did you think of his performance in this?
He was fine. Like whatever.
He's fine.
Right?
Yeah,
he's fine. He's fine. He's fine. It's fine. I'm not saying anything better about him.
To be fair, the script never asks for him to get his foot cut off and have to act like he's in pain crawling out of a room. So, which we now know that's his acting kryptonite, apparently.
Yeah. It's an impossibility in the Carrie Elwes art acting school.
All right, well, that's Wonder Woman. Adrian Pilecki, we still love you.
Yep.
give us a call, DM me. That's fine. But yeah, so our next real episode will be Battleship, which another thing you have not seen.
No, and I'm quite looking forward
So
to
for all you know, Carol Ways might be in that. I might be tricking you again.
You son of a bitch. I knew it. All right, well, thanks for listening.
Yep, see ya.
Okay, later.